We began this yesterday, and I would like to continue in a few days. Let's see, when is it going to be? Let's see, where's the calendar? Here we got my calendar. It is going to be on the 10th day of Shvat, which is Shabbat. It's Shabbat, not this coming Shabbat, but the Shabbat after that. In Parshat Bo is the 10th day of Shvat. The 10th day of Shvat is the day that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe left this world, 1950. And the next year, on that same date, the 10th day of Shvat, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, our Rebbe, took over being the Rebbe of leader of Chabad, and he assumed the position of Moshiach, just like the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. He was the Moshiach, as the Lubavitcher Rebbe is the Moshiach. As we said so many times before, the idea of Moshiach is just to educate the world what God is. There's other criteria has to come from the tribe of King David, the direct descendant of King David. And he has to try to convince the whole world, especially the Jewish people first, to go according to the Torah, and the non-Jews, the 7 Noahide commandments, and to do the commandments, and to do all the commandments, etc. But anyway, that's a big day. And the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe left for us a Hasidic discourse that he had said years earlier, but he printed it out for this day. And there's 20 paragraphs, 20 chapters in this, called a Ma'amar, in this essay, 20 paragraphs. And every year, the Rebbe, since the Rebbe took over, every year the Rebbe would explain another one of those paragraphs. And he went through it twice. There's 20, and the Rebbe was Rebbe basically 40 years, from 1951 until 1991, 1992. Then he got a stroke, and he was unable to speak after that. Okay, so let's learn, first of all, a little bit about the essay that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe said, and leaving this message to us about bringing Mashiach. So what we learned yesterday, and you can go back and you can see what we learned yesterday, that when God created the world, his presence was here. Everyone was Abraham, was Adam. Adam and his wife, they felt that they're creations, that God is creating them, and they felt that they have a responsibility, and that for the creator, and that God is giving them orders, and they should follow those orders, and everything is fine. They're being created from nothing for free gift. They're being created. They have eyes and nose and mouth, free gift. They get everything, a soul with a body, with this heart and lungs and a liver, everything. They got everything free. All they had to do is just do what God wants. They were put into the world to make the right choices and to do what God wants. That's what they were put into the world for. And God told them they put them into the Garden of Eden to work on it. And God was here, and they were here, and they felt God, and everybody was happy until Adam ate from the tree. Let's not go into the how do you say, the distressing details, but Adam ate from the tree. And since Adam ate from the tree, so that made the world a little more egotistical and a little less godly. The purpose of the world became hidden. And after that, their ensuing generations things got worse and worse. Things got worse and worse. Everybody learned from their previous generation to go be more egotistical, until finally it really got really bad. It really got bad. And came along Abraham. Abraham came along, and he was the first one to realize that everyone was wrong. The whole world is making a big mistake, and that you have to change it. I mean, Noah also realized this. Noah also realized the same thing. But Noah was before the whole flood and things like that. That was before Abraham. So Noah also realized it, but he didn't do anything to try to change it. Abraham realized that it's not good enough to just realize that everyone is wrong and not to do like them. Abraham tried as much as he could to convince the people to change themselves, to change their ways. Abraham tried. And to do this, it was tremendous self-sacrifice, and everybody hated him. And from that's how anti-Semitism began. It didn't begin with because Jews have money. Those are also catalysts. But the essence is people hate the Jews. I mean, really, it began with Adam, with the serpent, right? That the serpent couldn't stand that Adam was doing what God wanted. So he started this whole business. But essentially, with Adam, Abraham was the first official Jew, and he was hated by everybody. And the reason he was hated by everybody because he couldn't keep his nose out of everybody else's business. He went around and broke idols, and he's trying to tell people, listen, you're headed in the wrong direction. You can't do this. There's a creator. You have to do what the creator wants. And they tried to throw him into a fiery furnace, and they tried to kill him in all sorts of different ways. And nevertheless, Abraham went through 10 terrible, awesome tests and difficulties, and to convince him, proofs that God doesn't exist, that God doesn't keep his promises and things like that. And Abraham ignored all that, and he reversed the process. He started bringing godliness back to the world. In the language of the Mimer, he brought the Shekhinah back to the world. Shekhinah is God's presence. And after him came Yitzchak and Yaakov, until finally 7 generations came Moses. And Moses, he brought the Shekhinah back to the world into the holy temple. And that's it. And now we are holy temples. Every one of us is a holy temple, and we have to do the service of the holy temple to reveal and to keep God's presence here in the world. And that's the idea of bringing Moshiach. And Moshiach is going to build the third temple, really temple, but until that happens, is that the only holy temples that there are is the Jewish people, every single Jew. And we have to do the work. And of course, we've got the help of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, etc., and Moses, but we have to do the work. And that's what the Rebbe is telling us, the previous Rebbe is telling us that we have to do, that we have to do everything we can in order to forget all of our, our reservations and our fears and our lusts and our this and that, and just start getting excited about the Creator and doing what the Creator wants. Says the Rebbe, when a person does that, that's called eskafia. When a person forces himself to do what God wants, is that God gets pleasure and godliness is revealed in all of the worlds. Then there is what's called a yitrona or mina choshech, a better type of light that comes from darkness. Hainu, namely, kasher, when darkness is transformed to light. Here we go. When darkness is transformed to light, when egotism is transformed to godliness, like we just finished learning, right? When the serpent is transformed back to a state, as to a staff, like with Moses' staff, then it's a better type of light. Or me'ir begile, then the light, godliness shines revealed, until it shines below. So in other words, when you do a commandment, you do what God wants against your nature, then this is a tremendous novelty by God, and God gets pleasure. This reveals godliness in the world. That's the holy temple, and each one of us is a holy temple. Namely, there's a drawn down a light, which is the way that it's drawn down is in all of the worlds equally. It's called Sovev Kol Omin. That's the light. Here we get it. That's what it means when it was pushed away. Your feeling of Sitra Achra, the other side, selfishness, when your selfish considerations get pushed away and you decide, I'm going to do what God wants, then Estalik Yakoda, there is revealed the glory of God in all the worlds. And the Rebbe explains why it means Estalik usually means to go away, but in this case, it's like the whole world goes away from its low state, and it's revealed that the world is on a higher level, that the whole world elevates. So it says the glory of God is revealed in all the worlds. This is a type of light which is called Soviv Ka'omi, that surrounds all the worlds, that the way it's drawn down to is in all of the worlds equally. We skipped a little part of this, and I did it intentionally, because the Rebbe explained what all these different worlds are that God is creating. There's higher worlds, lower worlds, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira. These are higher worlds, and they come lower and lower. All of them are totally infinite. Each world is infinitely more real than the world below it. Each world is infinitely more godly and true than the world below it. Atzilut is like truth, ultimate truth, and godliness. This world, God is totally concealed, darkness. That's exactly what God wants. And He put us into this world in order to transform the darkness. And when we do that, that's higher than Atzilut. That gives the essence of God who creates Atzilut, who creates all these higher levels. That gives God, the essence of God, pleasure. If so, when God gets pleasure, so that everything is revealed more godliness in everything. There is shine godliness below just like it is above. That's what it means. Make me a temple and I will dwell inside of you, inside of each and every one of you. Every Jew now we don't have to do the work of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, etc., and bring godliness down into the world. It's already been done, but it's in a way that's concealed. And we have to do the work of the Holy Temple, and we have to make certain sacrifices, and that transforms Eskafia and Esapha. We can force and transform the world into light. Hine Naseb, there's made by means of this a different type of a light. There's drawn down the glory of God in all of the worlds. There shines the light of Soviv called Omim in the world. Paragraph 2. Behold, this was one of the services in the Holy Temple, namely biruring, refining the world. Biruring means to refine. Biruring means more exactly separating the good from the bad, right? Discerning what is good, what is bad, forcing yourself to do good and to turn from bad. That's called eskafia, forcing yourself. And maybe, and this brings to Hamaila, the higher quality, a higher level of being of a Jew, which is called Eshapcha, transforming darkness to light. And before you transform darkness to light, it's not so clear what darkness is and what light is. It's not so clear. Things that are bad feel good, right? The person does a bad thing, he gets light, feels good, he's happy, right? He smokes a cigarette on Shabbat, right? Watches a good television program on Yom Kippur. So if he feels good, right? He gets it. Wow, what a program! Watches the All-Star game or something like that. Wow, that was real. That's Yom Kippur. But he felt it. On the other hand, not to watch the what is the Golden Cup or whatever it is on Yom Kippur, not to watch is a tremendous difficulty for him. That's called eskafia. Eskafia means that everything is confused. You don't know. You feel bad things are good. And you feel that good things, going to synagogue on Yom Kippur, not eating, that's bad. I want to stay home and watch the game. What's it, right? So the good things seem bad, and the bad, you have to force yourself. You have to force yourself. You say, listen, I know that what I feel is good, it's wrong. And I know that what I feel is bad, it's also wrong. The fact is, not eating on Yom Kippur is a good thing. It's a good thing. I would rather watch the baseball game or whatever it is on television. That to me is good. That's wrong. That's bad. It's all confused. So I have to force myself. That's called eskafia. You force yourself to do good, and you force yourself to refrain from what's bad. Even though you think that what's good, you feel it's bad. And what's really bad, you think it's really good. You really enjoy it. So you have to force yourself. But eventually that brings to eshapcha. Eshapcha means that, wow, I really now really see that Yom Kippur is a godly thing. It's meaningful. It's wonderful. I'm connected to the Creator. And the All-Star game, I can watch it if I want to. I can watch it after Yom Kippur. I have to watch it on Yom Kippur. So necessary to watch it, right? On that day, I have to see it. Suddenly you realize it's stupid. And it can even be that you realize, what am I even have to watch it after Yom Kippur for? What do I care? It's so important. Maybe you like it. Okay, good. But that's not, you don't get your pleasure out of physical things. You get your pleasure out of doing what God wants. That's what you get your pleasure out of. That's called eshapcha. You get pleasure from doing good, and you're disgusted by anything that's bad. Right, to the point where somebody says, hey, come on, watch the All-Star game. It's not tomorrow. You say, are you nuts? It's Yom Kippur tomorrow. You're going to watch a stupid game On Yom Kippur, you're out of your mind. All of a sudden, what are you talking about? Last year, you were the one that was watching it. He says, yeah, the last year, it was, I was wrong. Now I realize it's a stupid, disgusting thing, and I'm not going to watch the on Yom Kippur. I'll watch it after. I'd have to watch. Suddenly, your whole beings, your whole kish change around. You enjoy doing what God wants, and you're disgusted by what God forbids. That's what was in the Holy Temple. It was in the Holy Temple. It was the sacrifices. The sacrifices, this was really a spiritual service of the soul. The thing of the Holy Temple bringing sacrifices wasn't just killing animals. This is barbaric thing. It was a very, very spiritual, very holy, tremendously holy and tremendously good thing. That's why when they made the sacrifices, that was the Kohanim and the Levites in their service and their singing when they brought the sacrifice. Because if bringing the sacrifice was just killing animals, what do you have to have that only special people can do it? And there has to be the songs and there has to be all this exact details. This is because the whole thing of the sacrifices is a spiritual service. Now, this goes along with the whole message of Judaism that this physical world is higher than the spiritual. The physical world, in some ways, there's nothing more physical than an animal. Taking an animal, there's nothing more holy than the Holy Temple. They've got nothing to do with one another. And that's the whole idea of the sacrifices in the temple. But now we don't have a temple. What do we do now? So the Rebbe said, each one of us is a temple. That's the whole purpose of this mimer, is to show us that you are a holy temple and you must activate yourself. What do you have to do now? Make sacrifices. What's the sacrifices you have to make? You have to make, not just making sacrifices means giving money away or things like that, which that's also. But here we're talking about sacrifice. The word for sacrifice in Hebrew is also the same word as coming close. It so happens that you want to come close to God, you have to do what God wants. And God wants you to do things that don't always make sense. But on the other hand, God gives us things that don't make sense, right? It has to be that your eyes see. It has to be that your ears hear. It has to be, these are gifts. And the same thing is God wants you to repay him, like in the Holy Temple, also by giving God gifts. Says that's the whole idea of because see, like it says, that's the sacrifices. What is a sacrifice? Sacrifice means to come close. Like it says, Adam ki yakri mikem korban laHashem. A person, when he sacrifices from you, a sacrifice to God. Mida behema, if it comes from the animal, from the bovine, then it can come from one of three animals, either from cows or from sheep or from goats. V'cheora yuksha, says the Rebbe, that's the sentence in the Torah. It says the Rebbe, I got a question. If the intention of the Torah was just to tell us the laws, it should have said, not Adam ki yakriv mikem, a person when he sacrifices from you. It should have said a person from you when he sacrifices, Adam mikem, one of you when he sacrifices. What does he say, a person when he sacrifices from you? It says, why does it say a person when he sacrifices from you? It should say a person from you when he sacrifices, one of you when he sacrifices, when he makes a sacrifice. What does he say when a person makes a sacrifice from you? But that's what it means. The intention is that the sacrifice has to come from you. This is a service from what's called your soul. That's what it means. Adam ki yakriv, Adam, a person, kasher yitkarev, when he wants to come close to God, hine mikem korban laHashem, from you is the sacrifice to God. Mikem ubochem talui adaber, that in you and from you and in you, the whole thing depends. You are the holy temple. Each person, each Jew is a holy temple. Now you have to make a sacrifice. You got the animals too. It's a complete kit. What's the animal I have? Namely, you want to come close to God. It's known that the sacrifices, this is the idea of making close your powers, your abilities, your senses, your personality. And it's coming to explain that when a person wants to come close, eat karev, make a korban, means to come close, means to sacrifice. But you want to come close to God, then the sacrifice comes from you. Hainu, namely, The whole thing depends just on you. A person can't say, shouldn't say, how can I come close to God? And especially, a person knows who he is. He knows that he's very far away from God. I'm not thinking in that direction. I'm not in that. In Hebrew, they say, I'm not in that world at all about godliness and Torah and commandments. Leave me alone. If so, a person can say, I'm ultimately far away from God. Let the religious people, they'll come close. How can I come close to God? Every Jew is going to come close to God. How can it possibly be? On this it says, Mikem, that the sacrifice has to come from you. The whole thing just depends on you. You don't have to go and buy in a sacrifice from somewhere. It's all in you. Every single Jew can say, when will my deeds reach to the level of my fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they were people just like you. They had natures just like you. They had their worries and their apprehensions and their fears and things just like you do. And Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but they had special powers. You also have special powers, not like them, but you do to. They had powers to deal with their problems. You have powers to do with your problems. And there's no limit. There's nothing, God forbid, that prevents a person to elevate himself and to reach and to come close to God. God does not come with impossible tasks. And God reveals and shines according to every person, according to his ability. Like it says in Midrash Rabbah, God said, when I'm creating you, says God, I'm giving you everything. If I wanted to, I could demand from you, give everything back. You know what? You don't have to give me everything back. Just cut off one of your legs and give it to me. If God wanted to, he could have said. But God said, I don't do things like that. When I request from you, when I give to you, I give according to my infinite measures. But when I request from you, I don't request according to my measurement, but according to your measurement, according to the abilities of each and every one. By means of this, that each and every Jew can elevate and reach to the levels, the highest possible levels, little by little. That's what it means, Adam Tiyakri. That's what it says in the Torah. You want to activate the holy temple, you have to make sacrifices. What's the idea of a sacrifice? Don't say sacrifice, but say to come close. All you have to do is want to come closer to the Creator. That in order that a person can come close to God, it's from you. It all depends on you. Nothing can stop you. The whole thing depends on you. But mikem korban Lashem, that from you comes the sacrifice to God, that mikem, that you have to sacrifice it from yourself. What do you have to bring? It means not just the animal, you have to go out and buy a physical animal, but the animal which is in you. And this was even in the time of the Holy Temple. In the time of the Holy Temple, it was in addition that a person would make himself come closer to God, but he also could bring an animal. And in fact, that animal helped him. The same thing like nowadays, a person puts on tefillin. It's not just the physical action that you're doing, but the physical action is supposed to help you because you're doing what God wants you to do. So in addition to this essential connection that you have when doing a commandment, even you don't understand what you're doing, you just understand that God wants, but there's also an emotional, psychological thing that it has. I am doing what God wants. I am giving my energy to the Creator. I am making God happy. This comes from you. This is from the behemoth. What do you have to do? You have to bring from your animal. A person would say, listen, I can't serve God. I'm an animal. You know what I think. You know what I do. You know what I want. You know where I am. What do you say to a person like that? Oh, that's good. God wants animals. God wants animals. You got a nice, juicy animal. That's good. The animal which is in the heart of everybody. This is what's called the animal soul. And you have to bring it from the cow and from the sheep. These are different levels which are in the animal soul. Like it's known that there are some people, that the different people have different natures. Some people have an animal soul, which is like an ox, a goring ox, and he's really a very crass person. Some people, they have an animal soul like a sheep, which a sheep is very refined. It's very lit. Even though, but it's also an animal. It's also selfish, right? There's one person who eats what is it, White Castle hamburgers or whatever it is, stuffs them in his mouth, and another person that when he finishes eating his whole meal and eats like an animal, and another person goes to a French restaurant and he eats rabbit with snake or whatever he eats over there, and it takes him 3 hours to eat his meal, and it says, which one is the bigger animal? Right? Which one of the bigger? The guy who snarfs down the food, that's an animal. The one who takes an hour to eat his whatever it is, his monkey or whatever he eats over there, that's a bigger animal, a different type of an animal. It's bedakos al kopanim. That's what it says. Asher takrivu et korban terachem. This is also written in Kuntras Tefillah, which was written by the fifth Rebbe of Chabad when he opened up Tomchei Tamim in the yeshiva. And this is what will stop today. God willing, we'll continue tomorrow about the fire that comes down from heaven to eat up the sacrifices. And now, let us do the Yom. 1 minute. Stop the share. Stop the recording.